Good morning. Welcome to the 9th edition of the open source video blog. My name is ANAVI. I'm a computer engineer and an open source enthusiast. I'm doing this live stream just for fun. The agenda for today is covering some interesting news from various open source communities, and then we have a surprise. We'll do an unboxing of this package that was delivered by UPS, and it contains an open source hardware association kit. But later on, we'll do the unboxing and we'll talk more about it. It's Sunday morning here. I'm doing the live stream from Plovdiv, Bulgaria, my hometown. We have perfect weather outside. Instead of going out for jogging, I decided to do this live stream for about 20 to 30 minutes. Please let me know if you have any comments below if you're watching later, or if you're watching right now, please leave a comment in the live chat. Now, let's start with the interesting news around the community. First of all, we have the AlmaLinux. This is a community-driven fork of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. It was formerly known as Project Linux. It has a very good funding for the moment. Quant Linux decided to fund it with $1 million per year. It was announced as a project after the problems with CentOS. You know that Red Hat made a controversial decision about CentOS, and there are so many users of CentOS that were unhappy. In the open source communities, when you're unhappy with something, you do a fork. And this is how we have AlmaLinux. The initial release is for x86-64 machines, which means computers like Intel or AMD, probably desktop machines, server machines. The focus is pretty much the people that were using CentOS before. So the initial release is now available. It's available since the end of March. You can download it, you can install it, and you can have a look at it. All right, we're continuing with something interesting happened in the web communities. It's about PHP. PHP releases are on hold because after the release of PHP 8.03, which happened at the beginning of March, a pair of malicious commits were made in the PHP Git repository where they store all the source code. This was quite unexpected. It happened at the end of March. It was detected. They are investigating the root cause about this. There were some announcements initially that they're planning to stop maintaining their own Git repository and just move the PHP code base to GitHub, which is a good solution actually. I'm not sure if it has been done yet, but yeah, it's an option that they are considering, I think. PHP is a very popular language. Most of the websites are running actually on PHP. Nowadays in the community, a lot of people don't like PHP. There are more modern programming languages and frameworks for web development. However, PHP remains the primary working force of the internet because this is the language in which WordPress is written, and WordPress is powering a huge percentage of the websites that we visit each day. Back on the main topic, after the security breach in the Git repository of PHP, the malicious commits were immediately identified, they were reverted. So they didn't reach end users. So this is not an issue that affects you as a user or you as a developer. However, something happened and there was this problem. And it was obviously a malicious hacker's attack. Now, let's speak about XscreenSaver. XscreenSaver is something that a lot of the users are of Linux distributions are familiar with. It's the standard screensaver collection shipped with most of the Linux distributions, also Unix systems, running on X11. So if you are an X11 user, and still Wayland is still not so popular, although nowadays it's quite stable, but the majority of the people, of the Linux users, are running X11, and most probably if they're using a screensaver, it's going to be a screensaver coming from the collection of XscreenSaver. This project has an enormous history. It was created in 1992. Quite long ago. Keep in mind that the Linux kernel itself is celebrating 30 years because it was created in 1991. So a year later, XscreenSaver was created. The history is interesting because it was ported to macOS in 2006. After that, it was ported to iOS in 2012, and in 2014, it was ported to Android. Version 6 of XscreenSaver was released on 1st of April. I wasn't sure, is this for real or it's an April's food joke, but actually it's for real. And XscreenSaver version 6 is here with increased security, better EGL, and GLES support, which means it's rendering better, and you can give it a try. Here are a few screenshots which show you some of the popular and interesting screensavers that it brings. Of course, things like the matrix, a random generator of Pac-Man levels, also the famous Amiga demo that was demonstrated back in the 80s is available as a screensaver. Also the popular solution with the 3D graphics for the popular algorithmic challenge for the Queens is available there. It's a huge collection. There's so many screensavers that you can choose, and there is a new version. Moving on to my personal favorite framework for making graphical user interfaces, Qt. We have Qt 6.03. This is Qt is an open source cross-platform framework for creating graphical user interfaces. It works for macOS, for Windows, and most importantly for GNU Linux distributions. One of the things that is created with Qt and is quite popular is the KDE Plasma Desktop, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So a version of Qt 6.0.3 brings general bug fixes, a lot of bug fixes for mobile issues and for apps running on Qt Wayland, causing Qt Virtual Keyboard to break. Now this is fixed. The next release is 6.1, and it is expected at the end of April, which means this month. April is a quite busy month because all these open source projects such as the Yocto project or Ubuntu and now Qt, they're planning releases in April, especially projects which have a release twice per year, and they often do this release in April and 6 months later in October. So this is a good timing for a lot of releases in the open source world. Stay tuned, and hopefully in the next edition of the open source video blog, we'll cover news and announcements for more and more updates of these popular open source software tools, including a new release of the Qt framework that's expected. And speaking about Qt, let's talk about KDE. And this is KDE is international free software community. It's well known for the development of the Plasma Desktop. As you know, if you're a Linux user, for many years, there are two major desktops. Some people are using GNOME, are using KDE. It's a little bit of like religion. KDE is written in Qt. So the Qt company moved Qt 5.15, which is a long-term release, to its commercial-only phase, and that opens a huge problem for a lot of open source projects which still haven't migrated from Qt 5 to Qt 6. So what's happening here is that now KDE is maintaining a subset of patches that they'll bring and apply to Qt 5. These patches are for security fixes, fixing some crashes, and other functional defects. So KDE is not providing new features with this collection of patches. It's just fixing bugs and improving security over the existing Qt 5 until they move to Qt 6, which, as we saw in the previous slide, is already available. And now we are moving to the hardware section of the open source video blog. On Friday, right before this weekend, we had the virtual edition, the online edition of the Open Source Hardware Summit. Due to the pandemic, just like in 2020, in 2021, the Open Source Hardware Summit was an online event. It was organized in a different manner this year. So first of all, what is the Open Source Hardware Summit? It's an annual conference organized by the Open Source Hardware Association. The Open Source Hardware Association is a legal entity registered in the United States, which has two main goals. The first goal is to make the Open Source Hardware Summit, which we are speaking about. And the second goal is that they run an open source hardware certification program when you can certify your open source gadgets. And I have a lot of gadgets. This is a gadget that I'm going to be certifying soon. So they are maintaining this directory of open source hardware products, which they say, yes, this project is open source hardware for real. We identified it complies with the license and you can use it. It's a really cool thing. If you are familiar with the open source video blogs that I did in the past, I'm sure you are already familiar with the Open Source Hardware Association. So in 2021, on 9th of April, the Open Source Hardware Summit took place in the online platform Hopin, which is actually a pretty good platform. However, there is one thing that I don't like in it, and the problem is that it's not open source. Otherwise, it's a great platform. The event was really interesting because they had the live sessions going on, and in the same time there were some exhibitions, expos, virtual booths where you can visit the sponsors of the event, such as AlmaLinux, SparkFun, Red Hat, and have a look at what they're offering. And also for the people who didn't register, there is an option to watch the YouTube live stream. So all the talks there were various different hardware related, open source hardware related talks. There were people from various industries, very interesting talks, very different talks from each other. So there are interesting things that you can learn from this event. And it was streaming live in YouTube. So if you missed it, you can have a look at the recordings available at YouTube. And now comes the most important part, which is to do this unboxing. Let me switch to my camera. Right, this is the box that I've received after registering to the Open Source Hardware Summit. So how does it work? The event was live streaming in YouTube for free. However, if you wanted to attend Hopin, you had to register there were two options. The first option was the expensive ticket, which brings this thing here, which I haven't opened, and I received it like 5 days ago. I'm really curious what's inside. Which is a swag. It's swag. And the other option was just to pay $20 and to register for the event and watch it in Hopin. The Open Source Hardware Association is working with membership fees and donations in order to support its work. They're doing great things. So I highly encourage you to become a member of the Open Source Hardware Association. I'm a member. I'm an annual member. So this box with cool things was shipped by SparkFun. It was delivered by UPS just on time before the event, and now it's time to open it. I need a knife. I've never done such a live unboxing of a big box while live streaming. It could be I hope it's gonna be a good surprise. It will be a lot of fun if it's actually something else, but I'm pretty sure it's what I've just explained. There was a label, it's coming from SparkFun, which I removed. Oh, okay. I'm opening it. Ooh. I need a bigger desk, you know. Now, can you see this? What's inside? What's inside in the box? Well, there's another bag. And this is the bag. And nothing else in the box. This is the bag. What it says is Open Hardware Summit at Home. Pretty cool. Now, what's inside the box? There is another bag. So there is a bag, there is a box inside the bag, inside the box there is a bag, and there is another bag. This is one of the sponsors, shopbottools.com. Let's give them a round of applause for sponsoring the Open Source Hardware Summit. Next thing here. Oh, what's this? This is the Circuit Sculpture Calendar 2021 by Hackaday and DigiKey. If you have subscribed for the Open Source Hardware Summit and received this box, you have the same. Looks pretty cool. All right, I won't open it now, but yeah, really cool. I'll put it on my wall. Now comes the more interesting parts, you know. Oh, before that, a beer coaster. Oh my God, I like this. So cool. You can place your cup of tea here. Now, electronics. This is the Novelty LED Matrix board. Instructions: lunchboxelectronics.com/product/Novelty LED Matrix board. Well, guys, you know what? I should do a separate video of unboxing this thing. Looks pretty cool. This is hardware. What else do we have? This is something from Arduino. Probably to, oh, okay. This is for the badge. Cool. All right. More things. There are a lot of stickers, of course. Luna, Great Scott Gadgets, and our sponsor of the Open Source Hardware Summit. They make great open source hardware things. We've covered them in the open source video blog, and this is a new, I believe this is a new product coming on. We've got a pen from Arduino. Oh, this is really cool. Oh, it's like a spoon, a fork, and a beer opener in one thing. All right, pretty cool. This is hardware. This is the Adafruit Qt Pi Sam D21 board. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'll give it a try. That's interesting. I haven't used it before. I had a look at it. I'm always confused because of the name, because it's Qt with capital letters, but it reminds me like QuickTime, or in modern days about the Qt framework that we've already covered. There, another beer opener, stickers. Let me show you these stickers. Arduino sticker. Hackster. Hey, Hackster. Awesome projects. You can find it at Hackster. Red Hat, a sponsor of the video, of the conference. Not of the video. The video has no sponsors. Another thing. Audio Motors, sponsor of the Open Source Hardware Summit. And Oshpark, if you're planning to make a printed circuit board and you need a prototype, Oshpark is making great prototypes. I've used their services in the past. They make purple boards. It's a flat rate, super easy to work with. And especially if you're in the US, this is a great choice because they're manufacturing in the US. Chimpos, DigiKey again, and yeah, our sticker. All right. So this was the unboxing, and there were interesting things in the back. We'll definitely cover them in separate, not live streams, but regular videos, unboxing videos, and getting started tutorials. Now we're moving on to another hardware project, which is very personal, and it's called ANAVI Macro Pad 2. As you can guess from the name, it's a project which I have created. It's an open source hardware mechanical keyboard with 2 keys. And It's the major purpose here. I have it. The major purpose of this thing is that you can reprogram these two keys and use them, for example, to turn on or off your camera while you are in a video conference call, or to mute your microphone. As part of my job, I'm working remotely, and nowadays, actually, some people say not remotely, but distributed, which is a pretty good term, especially for an open source developer. So if you're working in a distributed company, and you do a lot of calls with speaking with either customers or other developers, it's sometimes convenient to turn on and off the mic. And when you press the two buttons like this, you can turn off the lights if you don't like the underlighting. The ANAVI Macro Pad 2 is powered by QMK. It's a successor of this thing. Which is ANAVI Macro Pad 8. Here it is. And it's a smaller version. However, the Macro Pad 2 has only two buttons, no underlighting, but it has this backlighting here, which you can enable when you double press the buttons. It, of course, depends on the key layout that you're using. Free and open source hardware. I'll submit it for certification at the Open Source Hardware Association soon. Hopefully it will be launched at CrowdSupply as a crowdfunding campaign, so you'll be able to get your hands on. It's designed with free and open source software tools only, such as KiCad and for the PCB, and OpenSCAD for the acrylic enclosures, which are laser cutted. It uses, there will be two versions. One version that you can solder on your own. This is convenient if you want to change, the switches and use your own switches. The other version will come as you see it here. You just need to assemble it with your bare hands. The interesting part is that it's using microchip Tiny85 microcontroller. This microcontroller is 16 years old. It was released in 2005, but it's still kicking. It's very cheap. The idea of using Tiny85 is just because of the price. It's very affordable. It's using VUSB software to emulate USB, so when you plug it in your computer, it takes like 5 seconds for the emulation to start. This is done because the VUSB for the first few seconds is checking if you are entering flash mode or you want to use it as a USB device, which is pretty convenient actually, because this way you can easily reprogram the keyboard by using the popular QMK open source firmware and just plug in the keyboard when you need to flash it. This is definitely something that we'll be covering in the coming videos on my YouTube channel. I hope it's gonna be something interesting and useful, not only for me but also for other people. Alright, I did it because I needed a smaller keyboard, a keyboard that does this one single feature to help me while I'm doing video conference calls, and it does the job. Probably other people will need the same. The most important thing, it's an entirely open source project, so I had a lot of fun developing it. I'll continue developing it because I have to do a lot of tutorials about it. Now let's speak about the events that are coming. We're still in a situation where most of the events are actually happening as virtual events. This is something actually quite good for some people, because there's so many interesting conferences, and obviously no one can attend all of them. Going to a conference is expensive, while if you just visit a virtual event, this is something far more affordable. And the events that I've wanted to talk about are shortlisted here. These are events that are particularly interested for me, and I'll probably join them. The first one is NVIDIA GTC 21. It's with free registration. I've already registered, and it's happening next week. So on Monday, it starts on Monday, which means tomorrow. Then in May, at the end of May, we have the Yocto Project Virtual Summit. The Yocto Project is a Linux Foundation collaborative project for providing all the tools for building custom Linux distributions. It comes with a POC as a reference distribution for embedded devices. So if you have, for example, a Raspberry Pi, I always have a Raspberry Pi here on my desk. This is an older model, but I have it. So if you have a Raspberry Pi for your hobby project and want to move and try to make it more professional, you can give the Yocto project a try. Of course, in the industry, in very high-tech equipment with not Raspberry Pi, but industrial grade embedded devices, the Yocto project is super useful because it's very flexible. Of course, it's also very it has a steep learning curve, and if you want to learn more, you can register for the Yocto Project Virtual Summit, or if you have some cool ideas and showcases for the Yocto project, you can submit a proposal because the call for papers is open. And at the end of September and beginning of October, we have two co-located events. There will be either in Dublin or online events. The first of them is the Linux Plumbers Conference, which is co-located with a Linux Foundation event called Linux Embedded Conference. The Linux Foundation is having a lot of interesting events. This is a very small list of things related to the Linux Foundation. The Yocto Project Virtual Summit and Embedded Linux Conference are something that the Linux Foundation is doing. But if you're really interested in other technologies in the portfolio of the Linux Foundation, check out the conferences. They're really interesting conferences, including for containers. As usual, I'll try to do the open source video blog each month, and I'll keep you updated with these events as well as new events that are coming. Thank you very much for watching it. I know it's a little bit unusual that we're doing the open source video blog on Sunday morning my time, which means that it's probably late night or early morning, or most probably people in the US are still sleeping. But I just wanted to give it a try and see what will happen if we do it on Sunday. Thank you very much for watching. I hope it was interesting. I had fun because I needed to open my box from the Open Source Hardware Association, and definitely I'll be covering these kits in new videos. We'll have a lot of fun. There's so many interesting open source projects out there, so many things to try out. Unfortunately, never enough time. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, because this way you'll be on the first row when a new episode comes up. Thank you for watching again, and stay tuned for new videos. See you soon. Bye bye.